high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
All right, we are live.
All right, welcome everybody. We got a full crew tonight, I think for the first time in a while. So I'm going to enjoy this, and hopefully the discussion will be hearty and fun. But we're going to start off with the Restoring American Leadership in Drones Industry Summit. So let me jump right in, and let me get my window open here. All right. So at the Commercial Drone Innovation and Security Summit in Washington, D.C., Lisa Ellman, CEO of the Commercial Drone Alliance, delivered a passionate call to action for the U.S. drone industry. Her remarks come as the federal government continues efforts to reduce reliance on Chinese manufactured drones. And on the same day, DJI released its new Mavic 4 Pro drone, which will not be sold directly in the United States. I got some news on that here on the next article. But anyway, Lisa Ellman opened the summit by welcoming a packed room of industry professionals, policymakers, and innovators. She emphasized the importance of collaboration and forward-thinking policy, stating today is about bringing this community together to map out what the next 4 years and beyond must look like to restore American leadership in drone technology and the commercial drone ecosystem. She acknowledged that the U.S. has lost its global leadership in commercial drones, citing regulatory paralysis. That's a pretty definite term there. I say restore because despite the incredible brain power in this room today, we have lost our global leadership in this critical sector, primarily due to regulatory paralysis. This loss of leadership is especially relevant as U.S. policymakers consider new rules and restrictions on foreign drone policies or platforms, including those from China. The absence of the Mavic 4 Pro in the American market highlights the impact of these efforts and the growing need for domestic innovation and production. At the same time, recent research from the Drone Industry Insights confirms that private investment in the drone industry has fallen dramatically, with 2023 funding dropping nearly 50% from the previous year. It's not unreasonable to conclude that investors are waiting for clear regulations that will allow for operations at scale. So with a lack of money coming into the drone industry, it's going to further exacerbate the lack of U.S. drone capability, right? So we're already behind the roll. We're trying to ban existing technology from other countries. And in doing so, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot because there's no money to drive fabrication, R&D, all those different things that would set the United States on its own 2 feet in terms of the drone industry. So go ahead, Blenty.
They say loss of leadership. When did we have it?
Well, that's a great question.
That's what I was going to say. The same thing, Blunty. We were never in a leadership position.
Yeah, this is like making some kind of false narrative, right? It's like so
revisionist, more revisionist history.
Yeah, and
they stole it from us. We got to take it back. It's like, what are we talking about, man?
It's not regulatory paralysis. Yes, there are regulations that are getting in the way of slowing down drone deliveries and things like that. Sure. But it's not stopping DJI from creating the best drones with the best cameras and the best software. Like our regulations aren't stopping American companies from doing exactly that same thing.
Well, I would say to a certain extent, right? With the lack of, I guess, regulations like, let's say, beyond visual line of sight, right? That's putting us significantly behind because, that should have been out months ago, last year. But I mean, at the same time, if nobody knows when this is going to drop, then what's the point in, I guess, fast tracking any level of innovation, right? Does that make sense?
I also think there's like a world in which we could envision like there's probably a midline between the amount of freedom that China gives their people to develop, as far as like where you can fly and how you can do BV loss and like although like you're saying that regulation is missing, but as a greater picture, I think it's just harder to be a company in the United States and develop because like oh I need this area or these testing or this reliance or this accessibility or I need to contact the FAA and get this restriction or I have this power limit or whatever. And if you
Mhm.
remove some of those things, it's certainly easier to do development. You know, the question is, should those be removed, and what are they there for? And do we think drones aren't as safe as they are, and that's why we have them? You know what I mean? There's 80 layers here, but
100%.
there's like a world in which I can imagine like a middle ground there for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm in agreement. I don't think that the United States really, I mean, ever had, global drone leadership, right? And I would say that DJI has held that standard for a long time, and frankly, that rests in China. So, but at the same time, I feel like the innovation from the hobbyist community, going back to what Dan was saying right at the beginning, is the thing that drove the industry forward in the United States and worldwide. I mean, I don't think without the hobbyists doing what they did, not to
DJI was
pick
built
on
by
Dave,
hobbyists.
but the old folks in the room who flew model airplanes and then were like, oh, hey, quadcopters are a thing. Let's build these. I mean, if anybody's seen the first layer of quadcopters with the balsa wood frames and the flight
Wii flight
controllers that were the
controllers.
size of a donut, right? Versus what we have now. I mean, those are the guys that really drove the industry forward and created the leadership and R&D and all that stuff. I mean, without them, none of this would have been capable, right? So, my 2 cents anyway. Dave?
Yeah, utilization of first-person view in all different aspects of industry. That came from recreational. Where are the
Mhm.
pilots coming from? Recreational. So
Yeah.
that's where the innovation is coming from. Is small companies and private and not large enterprises that are allowed or able to
So
get BV loss waivers established.
so that's a question then. Is there some can we make a suggestion that like because of regulation it's easier for rec to do this than commercial, or do we think that it's the idea that recreational people are just going to dive into new technologies faster than a company would, right? Like do you think it's hurdles that are stopping commercial interest from progressing this stuff faster than we are? Like why did recreational push this stuff, and why does recreational continue to like pick out the weird stuff and like try to find, you know what I mean? Now we're seeing obviously like DJI innovate because they have the ability to get the chips and do all these things, right? But I'm just saying from a general level, the new ideas or technologies happen because of personal innovation. But you would think like, oh, these companies are trying to build drones. Don't we want the latest thing? Wouldn't we? Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Is
the
it
way
because
I
of
sort of
regulation?
see it is way at the beginning, companies just like, well, why would you want to do that? And then after they kind of saw it, it's like, well, okay, maybe you would want to do that, but that's too hard to do or to commercialize. And then
They didn't want to
people
fund
put
it.
things together and made it easier and figured things out. And then it's like, aha, now we can actually commercialize this and make some profit, which it's easy enough now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thought, right? And I think that where was I going? I lost my train of thought. I apologize.
In this industry, recreational has established a critical mass to demonstrate a market to companies so that they can get into a niche with some confidence that there'll be people buying the product.
I guess where I'm going from that, and the way that this would all be better, is for this story to have been told by Lisa Ellman,
Yeah.
right? Like because where we're coming to is like you pretend like we were the leader, and there's all these regulatory issues that cause us to fall behind because China can speed ahead with their lack of whatever. But the reality is that innovation happens on the lower level, and you can pick it up however you want, and the restrictions are sort of something you just have to juggle through, but it's not necessarily keeping you down. It's like we're saying now, like, oh, you've all proven it.
Right.
So now we can't afford to do it because we didn't get in early and we can't compete. So now we need to make like a fake Blanca competition essentially because we're going to pretend we used to be great and now we can be great again or something like that. Sort of what it feels like,
Yeah, I think
Now, do we feel like maybe America had a certain level of leadership, but my thought is we almost lost that when we got rid of the exception for recreational, right? Like,
Right.
and basically when recreational had carte blanche to experiment and innovate and that kind of thing. And I feel like that's maybe if we had it, and that's what caused us to lose it, right? But I mean, I think everybody's in a tailspin right now, just from all the news I'm seeing and all everything that I'm reading from what's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now, because everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, this is we're so far behind now because they're able to innovate these new ways to, sadly wage war." But it's causing everybody to kind of reside in a fit of panic on where we're standing, right? So, um, I don't know. It's definitely a thought
Yeah.
experiment, I guess.
Yeah. I think.
I think
Go ahead, Alex. You
I
were
was gonna
there.
say, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, I think part of this losing the edge was because with manned and general aviation, America was at the forefront of a lot of that and had the lead in all that, but we kind of lost the mark when it came to drones, and that's kind of the loss that I think that they're talking about or trying to talk about. Is like, yeah, we were on the forefront of general aviation, getting best aircraft into the sky, and then now when it comes to drones, we completely just looked over this and got into it too late, and then and kind of had all of our old stuff from general aviation that's kind of restricting new drone technology, and we create our older laws that brought us to the forefront or are now what's holding us back.
I definitely agree with the quote in there where she's talking about the regulations are ill-suited and designed for crewed aircraft. We've
Like
complained about
Mhm.
one
that
of the
quite a few times.
yeah, one of them is for delivery drone, requires a seatbelt in the for the pilots, and well, there isn't anyone to be seatbelted
Make
in.
sure you've got your
So
seatbelt when you're sitting in your chair and you're flying your
yep,
drone.
and then
Right.
and there's also the manual that needs to be in the aircraft too, and so it's like, well, who's going to be in the aircraft to read the manual? That so
Excuse me,
So,
that's hilarious.
Alex, did you want to reset and introduce that you were able to attend the Commercial Drone Association Innovation and Security Summit, which was
Excuse me.
yesterday?
yep. So yesterday we were able to attend. So I was able to go down to DC, take the train in. It was fun. Uh, so the DC Metro was nicer than I thought it would be. After being in the New York City Metro or subway um, in the summer. I think I did that. I don't remember when, or not
That's always
summer,
a
but in
sketchy
December.
prospect.
Yeah, DC Metro was much nicer than New York, um, but to the event, there was a lot of information. A lot of it was anti-recreational. Um, so
Cool.
we had a lot of careless, clueless, reckless comments in almost every panel. Um, but we also learned quite a bit of information. So some of this stuff where they're talking about outdated regulations, they did talk about drone delivery and stuff. But and that's where they talked about the needing a seatbelt and that kind of stuff. But some of the stuff that more so pertains to us is a lot of our components do come from China, and this push to move from China. A couple months ago, uh, we commented on an advanced notice proposed rulemaking for the Office of Information and Communication Technology and Services, OICTS. The acronyms just keep getting longer and longer.
I know, right? Jesus.
And so this one is kind of it was asking questions on different security issues for UAS, and the executive director of the office was at this summit and gave a little talk about their process. They had read through the comments on this rule, so they looked over our comments, and they also discussed how even though they're looking at this with they also want to get through this quickly. So there's not going to be a large turnaround time on this. It's trying to be pushed out quickly because of the new administration. but
So
they also
there's an
indicated
interest.
that there's going to be a Chinese ban of some sort, likely indicating DJI to be banned.
So there's an
It-
interesting point there. It's my understanding that this group is going to go directly from an advanced NPRM, skip an NPRM, and go directly to rulemaking. Is that your understanding?
That wasn't my understanding. It still seemed like they were going to go through NPRM, but on
Maybe it's
the
abbreviated.
With a comment period?
I don't remember. I don't think it was explicitly said, or if it was, I didn't catch it.
Right.
So
So
but
this
we
is
do have some good news on this as well. Is we were able to talk with, or I was able to talk to Liz Cannon, the director there, and we connected with her team, and we're going to be meeting with her team to discuss some input from the recreational community on this. So during the panel, she mentioned how her team was going to be reaching out to different organizations. We went up and volunteered to say, hey, we'll help and give input on this. And so we're going to be scheduling a meeting with her team. We heard back today saying that they have some availability to meet with us. So we'll hopefully be able to provide some logical input on this so that we can fly our stuff.
And maybe be known as something different from careless, reckless, and whatever else they call us.
Exactly.
Jeez. Like it.
Yeah, on that point, in 2016, the FAA, in a congressional testimony, coined the phrase "careless, clueless, and criminal," and they swept together all drone operators. And so yesterday, the CDA, the Commercial Drone Association, Department of Homeland Security, and the FAA all either explicitly or implicitly vilified recreational operators as part of the problem. So it's the FAA, they're bad because they're stagnant regulators, and recreational are bad because we're careless and clueless. And so that's not the case. And it's really unfortunate that yet another group in the United States is choosing to vilify a group that is helping them a tremendous amount. And it is truly unfortunate that that this organization, that these organizations, plural, who we have spoken with, who all agree that every professional in aviation has had a background in a hobby, and so we are a little fired up about this, but this is not a good way to move an agenda forward, to demonize an opponent, particularly when we've been working to assist the entire industry.
Yeah. And then I guess to move on to another point from the event, from the summit, one of the things that was discussed, not as much in relation to us, but more so to the aviation community in general, is that the FAA, DHS, and the White House want every aircraft in the sky to be identifiable. And they're calling this electronic conspicuity. And so this is essentially, so we have our remote ID for our drones. There's ADS-B for general aviation, but they want something on every aircraft something electronic on every aircraft in the National Airspace System. So including hot air balloons and paramotors. They want it all to be tracked, want it all to be in a system that's accessible to anyone for, well, I don't know about accessible to anyone, but at least in the government accessible. But they want everything in the airspace to be tracked everywhere in the country, essentially, is how it was implied. And so I see this as something to be on the lookout for, and maybe we want to reach out to some of the hot air balloon and paramotor organizations, try to work with them on this kind of stuff, see where we can help and what we've learned from remote ID.
Yeah,
ruling.
they're currently under light sport aircraft, I think, or is it's
Lighter than air.
Do we have any context for what identifiable means, as far as like because you could imagine you could be identifiable in 100 feet or in 5 miles, right? What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems difficult to knock down that.
It mainly seemed like they wanted it. they described it as a remote ID or ADSB type information for that. It's not, they didn't give a specific standard. They just said we want it to be like remote ID and ADSB, more so
Right.
heavily relying on ADSB side of things.
Okay, like as we know now, RID doesn't have much range in many situations, right?
Correct.
And it doesn't broadcast in a way that planes or other people can currently pick them up with their systems. So it's just it's a confusing statement because what are you achieving by it? So it makes me feel like that's not what they want, and there's going to be some larger network remote ID, like we've discussed, as the actual solution where you're in a database and your location is updated and these kind of things, right? Because otherwise they're not going to want to do that. And to me, that means that we'll get a greater push from hot air balloons, paramotors, and these other people, because that's a greater form of tracking for people who have been out of the loop. Kind of. Does ultralight have to have ADSB?
Don't believe so, but this
So they're going to be part
idea
of
would
this.
include
Yeah.
them. And
that's going to be, hopefully we get all these cohorts together because those all will be good cohorts.
And as of right now, it doesn't seem like there's anything written, and I'm unsure if they have authoritative background for this. So I'm not sure if these communities know about it. But yeah, so I don't know if those communities even know, but it's something where it seems like the FAA has this idea that they want to do this, at least FAA, White House, and DHS, that they want this done. But I think they're probably going through the process of how we can do this and if they have the authorities to do this or
this feels like unfounded fear mongering, and it's much like remote ID. We could not gather from the FAA any requirements, or they started out saying that remote ID was to improve safety. Well, it wasn't, and there are no requirements for that. So the federal government is supposed to work on a requirements basis. What is the risk? What are they trying to solve? And so this just feels like fear mongering.
Yeah, so to add just a few more things on the conversation. So yeah, back to your question, Blunty. So even regular aircraft, full size, private pilots, if you're flying outside of controlled airspace, you're not in a mode CVL, you're just out launching and landing in class Gulf, you don't have to broadcast. So even though your drone, your FPV drone that weighs over 250 grams has to broadcast, a real airplane doesn't in that class Gulf airspace. But I also wonder too, like I try to think of what the public's reaction would be if there was a mandate that came out that said all of a sudden all vehicles had GPS trackers on them. I mean, there would be an absolute outrage across the nation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the other thing of note here, and I'm going back to vilifying hobbyists here, but it's trading companies like Neros, right? Created in part by a former DRL pilot who started this as a hobbyist, I'm sure, that are creating companies that are American and creating drones for American defense, and so, by vilifying these people, or by vilifying us, you're disincentivizing people to jump in and help and be a part of the solution, as opposed to making them anti anything you want to do, right? So you're just creating a subsegment of the community that's just like, why should I listen to you? And you continue to do that by vilifying, the people who are the most prolific flyers in the nation. So just my 2 cents, but I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want my car to be tracked. I don't, I think we all kind of have become a little, I guess, what's the word? Subservient to the devices we carry. But at the same token, our phones GPS track us. Most new cars have GPSs built into them. Do you know that? Are you okay with that? Like, I mean, did you sign up and say, hey, I want to be tracked at all points of the time, of all points of my life, right? So, this is just another aspect of, I guess, the Big Brother conspiracy. But at the same time, like, that's not my jam. I don't want to be tracked all the time.
And do you want me to add more to that? Because I can.
Absolutely. Please add more, Alex. Let's go.
So, even more of this information. Another idea floated by DHS, Department of Homeland Security, was an idea for a verified pilot program requiring background checks to fly in certain airspace, primarily TFRs and restricted airspace at first. But the way they described it seemed as if it could expand to more types of airspace, including just standard controlled airspace. And they advertised it as a TSA pre-check for flying drones.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, it's
That's
definitely
not how this
that
works. That's not how any of this works.
So,
works.
so there's that idea.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
You want another one?
yeah.
I always
because
want
this is-
another one, Alex.
this
Let's
is-
go.
yeah, this
So
is
the
serious.
White House is looking at the possibility of point of sale registration of drones as well. So when you buy a drone, registering it at the point of sale.
Right.
So
Sure, that will be complied with very well. All retailers will handle that extremely properly.
mhm.
This is fine. This is all fine.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. Okay. Well,
Alex,
so-
do you want to make sure that we talk about the beyond visual line of sight notice for
Re-
public rulemaking?
Real quick,
Sure.
can we just get some
Oh.
context? Do you feel like this is just a bunch of dudes on stage going, "Here's the stuff we talk about in meetings that would be really cool," or do you feel like this is like the people who are like going to do this stuff in the next 5 to 10 years if they can do it? You know what I mean? Like, there's two different
Both.
versions of this, where like this is water cooler chat versus like this is the plan, and we're gonna do it if we can do it. You know?
I think it's both, but more on the side of if we can do it, we can do it. We'll do it.
And they had the movers and shakers, both of the federal government as well as on the commercial side and industry. They had a lot of advocates who were pushing. I mean, there is a director of rulemaking in the room. There are only 2 of those in the FAA, and these are the people who direct all rulemaking across the FAA.
So, talking about the director of rulemaking, he talked about BV loss and beyond visual line of sight, as well as 2209, which is the restrictions of UAS operations at fixed site facilities, so critical infrastructure. That was brought in 2016 and supposed to be done 180 days after that. But knowing the FAA, it's just now getting to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. So, some background: both the BV loss and 2209 rules were written and finished before the administration change and sent to the White House, but they weren't reviewed in time to be put on the Federal Register, and they got sent back to the FAA. The FAA reviewed them, rewrote them, and just today, or this week at least, sent it back to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs at the White House. So the White House now has both of those rules and should be getting their review of it. And once that's done, which could be a couple months, probably 3 to 6 months from now is what they're expecting, then it will hopefully be on the Federal Register. And once published on the Federal Register, this is when, after the panel, we were able to talk to the director at the reception and ask him about the timeline. And he said, once it's on the Federal Register, you get the initial 3 months of comments, and they're planning to do one extension and only one extension on it. So it's a total of 6 months for comments. And that's what they said that their plan is currently, is to just only allow one extension.
It's kind of funny that they're already planning an extension. Like,
Yep. Yeah. So they're planning an extension. So instead of just standard 3
remote
months, we
ID
get
broke
6
them.
months. Yeah. Well, some are saying that they're expecting equal to or more than the remote ID comments for this rule.
I don't doubt it.
And so they're expecting a 6-month comment period. And then after that, he said the FAA is going to try for a 6-month turnaround for the FAA side of things for the final rule. And that's a very aggressive timeline for the FAA, which then after that 6-month turnaround, they're planning, then they estimate another 6 months for the White House to review it before it becomes final rule, which would then mean 2027 as the earliest for a final rule on BV loss. So
Yeah, I
we're
was just
pretty much
keeping
waiting
I was keeping
until
I was keeping track on and writing
yeah.
dates as you were providing numbers. So that's a rule in May 2027.
Mhm.
NPRM comments 3 to 6 months from now. So it's currently that's August to November. We anticipate an NPRM on the street.
Correct.
That's the
So
most definitive information we've ever had from the FAA.
So that's kind of what we're looking at now, where we're at as far as everything is. And of benefit to this is uh, this does seem to be priority for the Department of Transportation, at least a very high priority for the Department of Transportation, because they're advertising that they sent it out to the White House for review and saying they're saying that this is something. Now they could
Yeah.
say it and not,
Yeah,
but it seems as if there's more push for it to be quicker.
Let me highlight what you found, Alex, the press release.
I saw that on LinkedIn from Liz Varro, so I can't take credit for finding it.
But it's Trump's Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announces progress on key drone rules as part of his innovation agenda. So the detail that Alex just went through is not speculation. We're looking at it in writing from the Department of Transportation Secretary.
Yes. So
anybody feel like we're headed towards a bureau of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, explosives, and drones? Like, are we going to be filling out 4473s when we buy our drones now? Like,
Well, I think it'd be great if this was only as difficult as ATF. Yeah, I think I'm nervous that it's worse. And there were, I mean, in the 2024 Reauthorization Act, there were Congress told the FAA no fewer than 5 times we really want network remote ID. And Alex, this was brought up as well multiple times, right? So it's one of the myths. So remote ID we can read as broadcast and or network, but absolutely including network remote ID. So yeah, lot
on
to
some
that.
Positive news, I also asked the director making if there's going to be anything for recreational FPV pilots in the BV loss rule, and he said that he hopes it is in there, which, as what a government agent can say, that did seem, at least, and his tone seemed as if it was
somewhat
confirming of something being in there, because he can't say yes or no specifically, but
right, of course,
he can indicate in other ways.
Yeah. So and Rob found a couple months ago that in the discussion there was a chapter in the NPRM on recreational. So we're hoping that made it through the edits back and forth around the various agencies and the executive branch.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's enough from.
So Alex found this CDA summit in Washington, alerted us to it, got himself there. That's what we're trying to do. So I really appreciate that he took the metro down into DC, attended this, and this was it was a who's who across the industry as well as the federal agencies that have aviation impact. So glad we were there. CDA is an important organization. They are a lobbying organization. They are very capable. They are well funded by aircraft industry, and they are staffed with some really bright people. We regularly disagree with their positions, but they're very capable.
I feel like we've gone from when we first started this effort that the FPVFC, we went from CDA bad to CDA somewhat okay to CDA okay to possibly going back towards bad. Like we've just gone around the room, and I feel like is the sky falling? Probably not yet, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
possible, right?
we worked
So,
close during the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC, the Aviation
Mhm.
Rule Making Committee. We worked closely with the CDA and their staff, and they were great. And our priorities were aligned, and it was productive. Notably, that entire ARC intentionally excluded anything on recreational per the executive director of the FAA UAS Integration Office. So,
Which we do have a new director.
yes,
Now
Wendy
O'Connor.
Connor, and is
Yes.
that the same position, or have they given her a new title?
So it's just the executive director of the UAS and AAM integration office. So they modified it. They combined the UAS and AAM offices,
Mhm.
and so Jeffrey Vincent is transferring to a different position in the FAA, and now we have Wendy O'Connor. She was just the director for the AAM office at the FAA, but now that they're kind of merging offices, she's going to be a director of both. She's former air traffic control. Also spent some time in the military.
Good. So that's a great background. Anyone coming from
Mhm.
air traffic control, have a bias to action. So I'm hoping that's what we see with our new executive director, Wendy O'Connor.
And I think that's also especially impactful with the discussions of UTM, or unmanned traffic management, or UAS traffic management, because that was also a large topic in here, but also discussed that UTM isn't really going to be in the BVLOS rule because it's not ready yet. So it's like they said both UTM is necessary for BVLOS, but UTM isn't ready to be in the BVLOS rule. So we'll see how it's implemented in the BVLOS
We
rule.
haven't conned enough companies to run it for us.
And that's what they said. It's something that they want private industry to run, not the FAA to run it. Because someone
How
asked
did I
about
know
how much
that?
it's going to cost. Someone asked a question of how much it's going to cost for UTM, and they said, well, we're hoping industry will decide that because industry hosts it and runs it, which is like, I don't want to pay for this.
Yeah, we'll see how this progresses. Now that advanced air mobility, so think air taxis, are supposed to be the air traffic control for those aircraft is the UTM, or unmanned traffic management. If that's the case, then we're supposed to be one of the administration's priorities is to seize a initiative and innovation in AAM, and that requires UTM. And UTM is a basket case right now. It's years behind. And so I think it's fantastic to have a former ATC executive in this position to try to solve some of the AAM issues that will have knock-on benefit to us in the UAS world. Too many abbreviations. I apologize.
Yeah, UTM is traffic management in the air, basically.
Yep. Unmanned traffic management. Yep.
Oh, one thing also just to think about is wasn't Jeffrey Vincent the one who approved the safety guidelines?
The
No,
For the
that's a
CBOs?
different part.
Wasn't
was
that
a
who we were
different part
going
of
back
the-
and forth with like 80 times?
No,
With-
different person that we were going back and forth with in the FAA.
Oh, okay.
yeah, much lower.
I think he retired.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
All right. So, anything else on this? We've spent most of the meeting on this, and I'm happy to spend more time if we need to. Obviously, this is drastically important, but
And
any other
fresh.
comments on this? And definitely fresh, right? We haven't heard a whole lot of anything coming out of the FAA on
Exactly.
regulations or anything for a long time. So,
Other than we do recall they had Doge fired 700 FAA people. You remember, right? As soon as Doge got into action, and the comments were, "Don't worry, they're not air traffic controllers. They're just the people who take care of equipment for the air traffic controllers." So anyone who lives around Newark ought to take note of that. So, because Newark Airport, as you know, folks who live in the Northeast know, has had 2 outages where they've lost verbal as well as radar communication with aircraft. So for a 90-second period, 2 of them, and then they had an outage where the FAA grounded Newark for part of the day last week. So this is not good times at the FAA.
I
They
sure
need to
wouldn't
get their
have-
crap together because I'll be flying to Newark in the foreseeable future.
I sure would
And
have liked to have been eavesdropping on some of the private conversations at this meeting.
Right.
there-
Oh my god.
There's a
Fly on
lot
the wall.
of lot of information, and hopefully next week or later this month, with Rob going to Expo, there will hopefully be some more information that we can get out of that. So
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna talk to everybody I can.
Poke all the bears.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll move on from this real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. Obviously, the new Mavic 4 new Mavic 4 Pro has dropped. Apparently, everybody's saying it is the most amazing UAS to ever be released. However, at launch,
If you don't live in the United States.
If you want
Yeah.
one, if we buy one, we have to go where?
Canada or Mexico. However,
Can you imagine that in your luggage?
Well, and here's the funny part is if you cross borders to go buy it, DJI will not honor the warranty. So hey, there's that. So don't crash it if you do. However, I will say that there are pre-orders up on 2 American companies, B&H Photo and Adorama. So whether those pre-orders are going to be honored remains to be seen.
So
Go ahead,
is
Alex.
it FAA remote ID compliant?
You know, I haven't dug
Is it
that
standard
far into it
remote
because I
ID?
can't afford one.
That's a good question.
Because it'd be kind of funny if it was FAA remote ID compliant.
I'm
And,
sure they've
imagine it
designed
will
it
be.
with the intention to sell it in the United States, but they're
Yeah.
not
So-
yet.
I imagine it will be because the same remote ID standards used in like France
Mhm.
and other places,
Yeah,
right?
other places, yeah.
little different,
So,
but just,
yeah.
base technology,
But
different
similar.
frequencies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're an American customer, hold your breath because it's not there. All right. I thought this was interesting. Lighten. It's a company. They are launching a drone propulsion unit to scale delivery of ultra lightweight U.S. sourced manufactured lithium sulfur batteries for drone applications. They're in California, and they are touting the new lithium sulfur batteries as reducing dependence on foreign and adversarial supply chains for critical minerals, components, and batteries, and enabling the deployment of lighter, longer range, and more capable UAV platforms. The successful, let's see, in a newly released demonstration flight video, Lighten showed its lithium sulfur battery powering a US built 3D printed UAV. The drone was made by Titan Dynamics, utilizing a battery pack designed by Upgrade Energy, both located in Los Angeles. The successful flight of Titan's 8.5-foot wingspan drone in Palos Verdes, California, demonstrated flight time capability of over 3 hours while executing a wide range of maneuvers at speeds of up to 86 miles per hour. Lighten's next upcoming drone battery release is targeting up to 8 hours of flight time. The batteries are free from nickel, manganese, cobalt, and graphite, minerals dominated by Chinese supply chains, enabling a secure NDAA-compliant energy solution for defense platforms. They're touting higher energy density and designed to support longer flights, heavier payloads, and extended operational range. So maybe a new battery technology remains to be seen. Maybe it'll increase FPV flight times from 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes. We'll see. We like to burn out batteries, don't we?
my batteries know that. Probably go through at least 20 a season.
All right. So
10 to 20 a season.
all right. New on the drone delivery front, we've got DoorDash expanding its drone delivery partnership with Wing in Charlotte, North Carolina. So they are going to be delivering. Let's see, we got Let's see. DoorDash customers within about 4 miles of the Arboretum Shopping Center in Southern California Southern Charlotte, I apologize, can order from a selection of local and national restaurants and choose to have their items delivered by drone. The lineup includes Charlotte favorites like Curry Junction, sounds good, Matcha Cafe Maiko, Joa Korean Food, and Panera. The city's first national partner available for drone delivery. If you happen to live within that 4-mile radius, you can get a $1 bowl of Panera's mac and cheese for a limited time. Oh, goodness. I mean,
Banking-
hey, if anybody's going to
banking
do it
capital
right
of the
so
South.
far is Wing, right? So
Yeah. Very in a very cool
Talking
city.
about drone delivery, they actually had one of their aircraft at the summit, and at one table, because Wing was one of the sponsors. And then Zipline was also another one of the sponsors, so they had
Nice.
their payload there, and they also had these tiny little keychains.
Oh, did you
Of
give me
their-
one? I want one.
I only got one, and they ran out
Ah.
quickly. I don't think Kenji even got one.
Oh,
But,
geez. Oh, man.
but yeah, they had these things. It's kind of cool.
They're
That is
adorable.
kind of cool. All right. U Avionics introduces a wearable alerting device for drone operators. So you got this little red box here. It's a wearable aircraft alerting device for unmanned aerial system operators and visual observers. The device audibly alerts UAS operators and visual observers to nearby ADS-B equipped aircraft, enhancing safety and operational awareness and allowing operators to maintain uninterrupted visual contact with their drones. Correct me if I'm wrong. DJI already has this kind of
DJI
baked
has
in, right?
ADS-B receiver and built in. Yeah.
So it's a solution to.
For Skydio. Oops.
All right. So
Was
geared
it
toward
the
UAS professional UAS operators in the field, Sky Alert addresses the need to remain heads up and alert during flight operations, especially when flying, when hand flying near structures and power lines. So you can create a configurable alert zone, which allows users to set customized altitude and range parameters. All of this for the low price of $499.
I was going to
Oh,
ask
man.
the price. Yeah, because you can, if you have your PC with you, you can. So I have an ADS-B receiver here in the room, and you can put it together less than $200. We have, excluding the cost of a PC. So if you've got a laptop, you're out of sight, you can set up ADS-B receivers, and it's amazingly effective because at least the system that I'm using is using the process of linking with other members of Flight Aware as the company, and so you get a wonderful picture of the entire country and your surrounding area if you want. ADS-B has a range of 25 miles, so you can definitely protect or understand what's going on where you're flying a UAS or drone.
$200 for the Flight Aware system. That's just ready out of the box.
Yep. Yeah, it works.
All right. We got just because I like to poke fun at Rob for being famous at this point. So this is a news article. Arlington police use drones when responding to some calls. Now the program's getting an expansion. So drones will be playing a bigger role in Arlington policing with the expansion of the Drone as a First Responder program, according to a news release from Arlington Police. The Drone as a First Responder program, or DFR, was created to help respond to fireworks calls on July 4th and New Year's Eve weekends, according to the release. But now it's being used to respond to calls about shootings, domestic violence, burglaries, missing persons, and other crimes.
Fantastic.
The program, already operating within the city, intends to provide an important real-time information to officers responding to emergency calls, according to police. Drones don't have to navigate roadways or deal with traffic, meaning they're often able to reach a scene faster than real officers and provide information on suspects, weapons, and vehicles. That means officers are able to make better informed decisions that put themselves and the public at less risk, police said in the release. And this is important, right? I mean, ultimately, this is a drones for good situation where, these drones as first responder programs are creating a little bit of, I guess, separation and lowering anxiety when it relates to
And
these types of situations,
the
right?
time and the ability to de-escalate. Yeah,
Exactly.
as Rob has educated us on these technologies.
100%.
Very important.
So Arlington Police Sergeant Robert Robertson is the head of the department's aviation unit. He said drones can also help prevent awkward situations or unnecessarily tense interactions between police and the public. I love this part. We had a call here recently where we had a report of an individual that was waving a firearm around, but the drone actually beat the officers to the scene, and we were able to determine that the suspect was actually waving a cell phone around rather than a firearm. That's awesome. I love that.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to bring this because every now and again I'll come across an article where Rob's mentioned, and I love that he's so instrumental in the DFR program, and that he's really become a spokesperson for it. And not only that, but is a part of our group as well, and able to utilize his contacts to help us out as hobbyists, right? And I think that's amazing. So sorry for poking fun at you, Rob. It's all out of love, brother. But more power to you,
No,
man.
you're fine. No, you're fine. Thanks for the shout out, Josh. I do want to emphasize too, because we do get a lot of mixed reviews, a lot of mixed feelings about, anytime you merge UAS with public safety. So something that I'm really excited that we're on the forefront of is we're creating a public dashboard, and it's in beta right now. We're getting there, but here in the near future, you're going to be able to see the flights, like a little thumbnail that shows the Google Maps essentially of the area that the flight happened and a brief description of it. Where that way, if somebody hears or sees an aircraft over their house and they're wondering, well, was that a public safety mission? There's a little bit of a delay, 10, 15 minutes. They're not going to know until after the mission's completed. Yeah. But they'll be able to log in and they'll see, and that's for transparency. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to try to cover up. Like, it's truly there as a de-escalation, life-saving capability. And we want everybody to trust the use of those aircraft. So it's a good way to be transparent and make sure everybody truly understands how they're being used and where they're being used.
And I think that goes a long way towards community relations and showing people not just, that you're doing the right thing, but also showing what the technology is capable of. I know there was a article of in New Mexico of 2 kids with a firearm, and they were able to de-escalate the situation and utilizing a drone. I mean, that's amazing.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So super cool. And love that you're a part of that, man. So
it's a team effort, man, and one of many. So
of course. All right. I thought this was absolutely hilarious. This is not American news. This is British news, but it's kind of funny at the same time. So health and safety rules stop Army from flying drones over soldiers' heads in training. So British troops destined for the Russian border to help Ukrainian soldiers with drone warfare have been banned from practicing the skill due to health and safety regulations.
So live fire drills are okay, but no drones.
Soldiers training on the Salisbury Plain have reportedly been told to stop flying drones over colleagues' heads due to safety concerns, even if those down below are sitting in a heavily armored tank at the time. They have also been prevented from practicing jamming radio control frequencies, stopping drone pilots and the devices they control from communicating, a key tactic in aerial combat due to concerns it would have an impact on sat-navs and other electrical equipment used by residents near the Wiltshire base.
Oh.
It has prompted concerns that British troops at the base, which was visited by Prince William when he flew a drone there last year, will be woefully unprepared when dispatched to the fringes of the Russia-Ukraine front line to help Zelensky's military defend its territory. Labour MP Fred Thomas, who sits on the Commons Defence Select Committee, said British soldiers who are deploying as part of a deterrence force to places like Estonia and Eastern Europe are going out without the kind of training and capability that is completely bog standard in warfare now. whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine. He told the news organization the UK troops are taking steps to try and protect themselves by going online and buying kit to then tinker around with to see if they can't jam frequencies themselves. That's the way to do it, guys.
Recreation
soldiers
for the win again.
I know, right? Jeez. Soldiers complained that they were being told to complete multiple requests for permission to the Military Aviation Authority, part of the Ministry of Defense, to fly a drone over the tank during a training exercise in March. This was despite the tank not having any personnel inside at the time. Like, what? What?
That is a good bit of comic relief.
Just in case you thought we were the only ones that were crazy. Apparently not. So we're going with that. So
I also think it's crazy that they think that they just can't do it anyway. Like, what's like, who's good? Do they think they're going to get prosecuted based on something that happened? Like,
well, you got to understand military, right? So if general says don't do it, right?
It'll affect their record in the military and hurts them a lot in trying to advance in the military. Even if there's a lot of stupid stuff like that in the military, and then
in the military, you definitely don't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
I think it's the basics here. So, yeah, we're not the only ones that are a little bit crazy over here. So, there you go. But with that, that's all I have. Dave, you got anything for us this evening?
Just a thank you to our members, and we've committed to get out there and go to events like the CDA and like Expo, so that we're finding out what's going on firsthand. And my thanks to Alex for getting down there, and Rob will be in out of his hometown, trekking down to Houston for the AUVSI event for the next several weeks. So we're happy, and we'll be reporting back on that. And this puts us, tees up a number of action items for us, and to be useful, I think, to membership. So thanks to this team, and thanks to our members.
Dan, you got anything for us this evening?
Something we can probably talk about next time when we've had some more time to look at it. But I think that in the UK, the CAA released some more documentation or some rule changes that are coming. I'm not sure if it's all rule changes that are coming or if it's just documentation of things that have already been in the works. But if we're not already familiar with it, we should probably look at what they're doing so that we are a little bit more familiar with it, especially if they're doing things better than we are, that we can use that as a good example. But I don't.
Yeah, 100%.
All I know is I saw a headline that they announced something new this last week.
Yeah, and the FAA does have an objective of global harmonization, so absolutely, that's a good topic.
Okay, Blunty, anything from you, sir?
Nope.
Rob, you got anything?
Yeah, I've actually got some good news to finish up with. So this as of this evening, the calendar got published for the House floor tomorrow in Texas. And House Bill 41 was not on it, so that
means it's not on for this session, right?
Yeah. So essentially, it's officially dead at midnight tomorrow because that's the deadline. But it's not on the calendar, so it's good as dead. So we are super excited. All the work, all the effort.
Does it still stay active and then can be brought back up to for a floor vote when the legislature resumes a session?
It's my understanding that it's done for 2 years until we do the next session.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super excited. There's one other potentially concerning bill that was not written to target drones, but it kind of indirectly does. So we're still doing some work on that one, trying to get some language amended on it. But outside of that, though, and this is a huge win. This was the one that we were worried about.
Yeah, putting down HB 41 should give you good precedent for that second bill. That's great. That's great news. And for anyone who hasn't been following us on this piece of Texas legislation, it was going to ground a lot of drones that are currently being used or purchase of new drones for public safety organizations across the state. So Rob was part of a large coalition of public safety officials who testified to their state legislature. So now it's dead for 2 years. Well done.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was another team effort, man. There's a lot of people around the state gave up a lot of time with their families and put a whole lot of effort into this.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. All right.
No, that's all I got.
Okay,
Excellent.
sounds good. Alex, wrap us up, buddy. Anything from you?
I think we covered everything that I had.
Just a little bit of
Racing.
stuff.
Alex just throws
is-
a grenade in the room and runs away. All right, guys. Thank you for this evening. Obviously, we'll keep a watch on all this stuff as it rolls out. This is vitally important to our hobby. It's vitally important to you guys, and it's vitally important to us. So we'll keep a watch on it. We'll keep you informed to everything we learn, and we'll roll out from there. But thank you for being with us this tonight. We appreciate it, and hopefully we gave you a little bit to think on, and we'll see you next time in another couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is